Hey Dan, I think we can hear you, see your screen. How's it going?
Scott, how am I sounding to you? Hopefully pretty good.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks.
Okay, fantastic. With me as always as my trusty sidekick
How are you?
slash partner,
How are you,
assistant.
big guy?
How do you want to be called today, Mr. Williams? Is it
I'd
sidekick, assistant,
like to be your associate.
associate? Oh, the lower end of the venture capital totem pole you go. All right, big guy. Um, we have a fantastic show today. Let's jump right into it. But before Brad and I put on our Q&A webinar speedos and jump into the open waters of education, we first have to tell you that Trade Ideas is not a registered investment advisor. All the information that you're going to be listening to is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as any type of solicitation to buy or sell any securities. If you want to do that, please consult a registered investment advisor. Brad, are you still with us?
You have my attention.
And you are not going to be construing any kind of solicitations. Okay. So for those of you that don't know who we are, I am the CEO of Trade Ideas, and Brad is the Chief Operating Officer of Trade Ideas. And Brad and I used to work together for many, many years, and but always in the business of investing. Scott also has been with us, oh my gosh, since 2000. So
We all go way back.
yeah, you have a team of experts at your behest, and and our expertise lies in the ability to help you speculate in the stock market. And this is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about speculating well using our technology. That's the thesis of this webinar. It's a Q&A section where you can ask us any kinds of questions and we can answer them for you. But before we kind of jump in, what I'm doing is giving you a little bit of an introduction to myself and our approach. So we kind of thought that the best way to solve problems is through speed and simplicity. And instead of trying to figure out which algorithm worked, which I think is the fundamental problem, Brad, that faces many quantitative hedge funds right now, we said, well, that's the wrong way to do it. It's not which algorithm works. It's how do you apply any algorithms that are working. Very important differentiation. And we thought that the best way to do it is the way the MIT card counting team did it in breaking Vegas. They counted cards. So that's what our AI does. Our artificial intelligence technology that's been kind of being built since 2003. Every day after the market closes, and oh my gosh, Brad, I've repeated this how many millions of times, but right now our software is going through iterations where it's looking at the Vegas odds for any type of a move. Like, for example, if a stock is going up after reporting earnings, what are the odds of it continuing higher if it gaps up, or continuing lower if it gaps down, or any kind of formulation of a thesis in between? That is what we do, and that's our approach. Because what we figured out is that valuations are relative. So before I jump into the software, and I'm very close to going right into it, this is just, again, the foundation of where your mind needs to be. In today's world where information is spread instantly, you no longer have the luxury of having your Uncle Bob tell you about this stuff that his cab driver introduced him to. You know, that's kind of stuff doesn't happen anymore, but you'd be surprised how much it used to. You know, how much of that kind of traditional sort of informational insider information where you pay order flow or you have relationships with brokers used to drive research. And it's still, to some extent, they still try to do that. But the thing that people are finding out is simply that's not the way to do it. You cannot hope to have your ear be the first ear. What you have to do is be more of a quantitative behavioral analyst. And that's where we come in, and there's nobody that does it better. So Brad, in a continuation of the theme that we did last week, I wanted to keep this here. Do not fear selling first. So the reason I'm going to bring this up is because one of the things that differentiates successful investors from the ones that are not successful is their ability to just simply apply odds in their favor. Let me explain what that means. Well, let's say you find yourself in the market in 2008, or even let's say 2007, and things aren't looking that good. You know, there's moves up, there's moves down, but things aren't looking good. The traditional approach, what the fake financial news media will have you do, is this thing called wait it out. Brad, are you familiar with that?
Well, I've heard it once or twice through my lifetime. Investing in the long term.
Yes, investing in the long term. So what I want to do is I want to kind of break or get rid of the thing that's covering everyone's eyes about what that means. Waiting, you know, for the long term is basically just handing your money over to other people. Successful investors and successful speculators find that it is much easier to at least have the ability to be profitable when you have the ability to make money on the downside. What does that mean? In stock parlance, it's very simple. You sell first. You don't need to worry about the mechanics of transference and ownership. You simply sell, and then you have an obligation to buy it back. Whereas when you buy, you do not have any obligation to sell. You can just keep it. That's an interesting part, by the way, Brad, why, you know, hanging in there for the long term works for people who can buy. When you buy, you bought, congratulations. But when you sell, and when you sell first, they want you to buy it back. Now, the idea is that you want to buy it back cheaper. That's the beauty of supply and demand, and that's the beauty of liquidity and oscillations. Nowhere else in the world of investing can you do what you can do in the U.S. stock market, where you can literally just come in, sell a stock at some price, let's call it $10, come back 2 days later, and if it's at $8, you can just buy it right back and pocket the difference. Of course, you can lose as well. But the idea is that because it's so cheap today to transact in the stock market with brokerages like our partners at Interactive Brokerage or E-Trade or basically anyone, TD Ameritrade, Scottrade, Robinhood, you can trade for zero. Because all this ability is there, it behooves you as an investor to understand that there's a whole other side to this thing called investing, and when you're wrong, you can be right. So, Brad, I'm just saying that we're going to stick to that theme. It's going to be part of what we discuss as we continue to talk about the Trade Ideas technology. So I'm going to minimize the presentation. I'll come back to the training room. I'm going to go a little bit back and forth today. So for those of you that are not aware, or rather, let me just say it first. Can everyone see my screen well? How about that, Brad?
Yeah, your screen looks good.
Okay, so for those of you that are looking at my screen, what I'm showing is today's performance of our artificial intelligence channel, where it had 20 suggested trades that you could have followed, and the risk on profit was 92 cents after peeling back almost half of the top at the very last hour on some volatility. This is the kind of speculation we do when you're able to approach it from the point of view of this. I'm kind of going to expand it out, and again, I'm not going to jump into every one of the trades or talk about how the software finds it. The whole software is designed to find probabilities that hopefully can shape up into successful profits. That's really the whole game. And these are all the different strategies that we have today, and these were the trades that were placed. But the thing that I kind of want you to see, and this is why we've been doing this, over the last several little bit, like I would say, Brad, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, we started noticing results coming from the short side that are registering on the board. And it's important for us to tell you, as our clients, that the software is producing some impactful results selling first. Now, of course, it also goes long. But on the short side, when some of your best trades happen to be in the direction of speculating to the downside, it's sort of like a mnemonic or a reminder to us to pay more attention, because what we're doing here is that we're showing you what the expert would do if they had the best of all knowledge, quantitative knowledge. How would they have done and how would they have executed? This is using proper rules, proper technique, not letting losers go against you, the whole thing. Everything is provided for you here, but it's important to note that when the most profitable trade happens from a short, and this isn't the first day, this is probably like the second in like 5, I would say, we are starting to kind of pay a little bit of attention to it. And what I want to talk about is a couple of things on how we set up various ways to play the short side. And also at the same time, Brad, I feel like we need to also showcase a little bit of the new, well, we just show, not rather showcase, but show the new, the pre-market filters or alerts?
The pre-market filter.
Okay, pre-market filter. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to a new top list window. And I'm going to show you this so that as you're watching me do this, you can also see that not only am I demonstrating functionality, but I'm also showing you how it works. And remember, if this is designed for me, and Brad knows my aptitude, anybody can do it. Okay, so just to repeat, I went to new and I went to a top list window. That part I knew, but the idea is that I'm going to see a list of stocks. Okay, and what I want to showcase is a new filter that we created called the pre-post or pre.
No, type pre-market.
Pre. Is it one word or two? There we
Yeah,
go.
it's right there. It'll find it in either way, and it's a filter the below pre-market high and above pre-market low, and then there's also one other one, the position in pre-market range. So those are the 3 new filters.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk, Brad. And we're going to add these filters in. And what I want you to do for me is kind of walk me through a Brad Williams description of a setup. Let's say we want to find something that's close to its pre-market highs, hypothetically speaking. I'm trying to address you as if I'm a student of yours or somebody new. I have no idea what is this below pre-market high business. So what are you going to...
So the way that filter works is if you had a value of, say, 5 cents, that would be 5 cents below the pre-market high. So if what you're looking to do is capture stocks that are a penny or 2 below their pre-market high, this is where you would input that in.
So would I put that in the minimum or the maximum?
Yeah, so right here in below the pre-market high, you could put a minimum of, say, 5 cents.
Okay.
Okay, and then a maximum of 0. And now you're going to be capturing stuff coming up into the pre-market, close to the pre-market high, starting at 5 cents below the pre-market high and going all the way up to the exact pre-market high.
So when I went and clicked on histogram here, it's telling me that basically there are 1,135 stocks that are currently in this area.
Yeah, you actually have it reversed though.
What?
Yeah, see, it's so the maximum is 0.01.
How about now?
You're so cute. There you go. That's it.
Well, Brad, you know, the reason I did it reversed is I'm trying to demonstrate that as you were telling me, I was following your instructions and maybe I didn't do it perfectly, but we have all these tools inside the software that allows you to kind of visualize what it is that you want. And here,
so you're also, let me explain. If you go ahead and close that window right there, you have a value of negative 0.02.
well,
You did in that other one, right?
yeah.
That value, that negative value, is actually telling you that it's crossed above that pre-market high. So it gives you the ability here in this window to say, okay, I want to see things that may be 2 cents below the pre-market high, up to 2 cents above the pre-market high, and capture that range. And also, you know, you did this in a top list window. That's one way that you can look at this data in a list view. But like for me, what I would be doing is I'd probably be looking at this in an alert window, looking for some type of cross.
Well, Brad, you know, you're the much smarter of the two of us. Show me how would you demonstrate this?
Yeah, so go ahead and do the start from scratch. So double click on that start from scratch, and this is going to erase all the alert and filter settings. Now for this type of strategy, I think using a new high alert is the right way to go because it's going to give us that first instance of the stock crossing through that threshold of the pre-market high. So there you go. Now let's go ahead to the search tab and let's add the pre-market filter. So just type pre-market. There you go. Let's go ahead and add the below pre-market high.
And what would you like me to put in here?
Okay. And so in the minimum right here, let's put 0. Okay. And on the maximum, let's put 0.02. Okay, so what this is looking for, it's approaching that pre-market high. It hasn't yet crossed it. So now you can go ahead and set some filters, some price constraints, average daily volume. This is where you really define a strategy.
Let's put in here like 5 to 50 with a relative volume. Well, no, that won't do it. And let's say, where's the volume? And again, whenever you need to find something, you can just go to the search tab, hit volume, and here I am. And
We've done relative volume. Remember, we're looking at this during the regular market hours.
True. Well, I can go to both. Oops. Relative volume, volume today, and I'm going to add these filters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say volume today of like 150,000 shares and relative volume of 2. And I'm just describing.
That might be a lot of volume today, but that's fine. And you know what? This is actually a good point to talk about that relative volume. See, one of the things in trade ideas, because there are a lot of new people here, that we do a lot of things with data, and we create data on the fly in real time. One of those data points, well, a lot of the data points have to do with the price action. A lot of them have to do with volume. And whether we're looking at volume on a 1-minute chart or on a 1-minute candle, a 5-minute candle, or looking at it cumulative to the day, this relative volume has given us a ratio of how much the stock is trading right now compared to normal. So it's a real powerful filter.
Well, and it allows you to visualize things. And again, then you can, everything that you are able to, for example, use as a filter, you can pretty much then add as a column.
And do one more thing, Dan. One more thing would be cool here. And I would put in as a column, the position in pre-market range. So it's another one of the new columns. And what that's doing is it's telling you, well, it's looking at that pre-market range, the pre-market low and the pre-market high, and it's giving you a visual representation as to where that stock is. Now, we know where it's going to be because we know it's going to be pretty close to that high. So it's going to look like that every single time. But imagine you could just add that column to any of the strategies, any of the top list windows, and you'd be able to get a nice reference as to where that stock is relative to that pre-market range.
And again, for those of you that are new, notice that Brad and I, as we're creating these ideas, we are instantly able to get the feedback. So you can see like, oh, did this work? And, you know, because it's quantitative, of course, it will have worked. But the idea is, this
So
is how...
zoom into your intraday so we can see more data, so we can see the beginning of the day. And that'll give us a better,
So notice you can shift the time frame, and here I'm going to switch it to 15 minutes. And here you can see it happening for iPixel. So this was the pre-market high, it traded lower, and then as it got almost right to the pre-market high, that happened to have been the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful breakout. So
do me a favor here also, Dan. Go back into this window and go to configure.
Can we stop while we're ahead, Brad? Look at iPixel.
It's a great one. It is. There are a lot of good ones. But there's so many, it's like a piece of clay, and you can really make it do anything you want it to do.
Oh, no doubt. Well, remember, this is the Q&A, so I want to make sure we don't overwhelm. So one of the first things I'm going to do here real quick is I'm going to go back to this in real time, and I'm going to save this by using our save and share to the cloud. So this is a kind of technology that allows me to basically save and share this. So now it's in my cloud. So just like your iDrive or your Dropbox, we have that inside the software. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this to the chat room in the chat, and everybody who's a Trade Ideas Premium customer can instantly copy that, and they have this window. This is the beauty about using our technology, and why so many people are adapting it is because the way we are able to share and the way that we're able to help you configure, it up ramps really, really quickly.
All right, let me do me a favor, because I do want to show this because it's really cool. So right click in the window, go to configure. And then go ahead and click on the icon, the pre-icon. Right, any one of those, the icon on the right. Yeah, okay. Click on that. That'll take us right to the filter that we want to manipulate here. Yeah. And so what I want you to do is I want you to set the minimum to negative 0.02. You could even set it to like negative 0.05. And what this is going to do to the window is when the stock continues to run through that pre-market high, it's going to continue to give you those signals, up to 5 of them, to give you that notion of momentum and something breaking out. So it's just another way to look at that and another way to shape the data to what you want to see.
So tell me again so that our users understand, what does negative 0.05 and below pre-market high mean?
Okay, so look at it, think of it like this. The minimum is always less than the maximum in a standard scenario, right? So yeah. Negative 0.05 is going to be our minimum, maximum is going to be 0.02, just from a logical perspective. But when you think of how many pennies below the high are we? A positive value is going to be below the high. We're 5 pennies below the high. We're 6 pennies below the high. But when we start to cross above the high, now we're negative values, right? So now we're negative 1 cent below the pre-market.
Because it's the description. And this is, Brad, exactly, like these are the little nuances that we help everybody with, but it also isolates the power. You know, and going back to here, what you can do, you know, and how this shows you what happens when you start, you know, changing that information.
Yeah, one of the great bits of data is the count right there. Like how many stocks actually meet that criteria at that point in time. That's well, right also, now. But
you now know that you are also kind of doing a good job of filtering because you're not watching a whole mess of everything.
Yeah, and you also have, what do you have in there? You have a relative volume filter.
Yeah. So this is, the reason I brought this up is because this is something that was recently added. We just sent an email out, Brad, I mean, I thought I saw it a few days ago. And this is one of the things that we do. We continue to add functionality. And when you see, for example, our filters, all of these, at one point, they were new. So look at all of these ability for you to slice and dice the data, but also, this is, Brad, this is the most important part I want to communicate. Look at all of this. You can say to yourself, It's mother effing incredible. There's too much stuff. You could go crazy. That's why we invented the AI. Because all of these symbols are coming from a strategy that's looking at all of those filters and trying to figure out where there is data. Let me, Brad, go to like school here for a minute and just remind everyone that if there was this vector vest magic Tim Sykes way to make money in the stock market, I assure you that everybody would be doing it. Everybody. But it doesn't work like that, because the stock market is kind of like a living entity in itself, and it oscillates back and forth. And what happens is the ones that are rewarded are not the ones that have, figured it out. The ones that rewarded, just like evolution, are the ones that can adapt the quickest. And, in 2007, you had to learn to be able to trade the short side. In 2009, you have to learn to be able to hold on and not sell and think that everything's going away. So that's the art of trading, is getting into the flow state, into the rhythmic state of being with the market. While we're on that note, and fake news, so there are a lot of people who are buying and holding this company. And, I'm not saying that they do something bad per se. Snapchat's very viable as a thingy. Whether they are a business is hard to say. But the point is, valuations are relative. Yesterday was before Snapchat's earnings. Then the guy, their CEO, I didn't watch it, but I'm assuming maybe his posture wasn't what Wall Street wanted. But look at the kind of destruction that's taking place. And now everyone's starting to talk about the fact that there's no barrier to entry for a company like Facebook or Twitter or anybody else really to compete with Snapchat. They were first to market, but first doesn't always reward you MySpace. But yet, I'm bringing this example out to everyone simply because this is the maxim that is being put out there. Okay, you're investing in Snapchat, they've got great technology. It's almost like it doesn't matter what happens. What?
All the kids use it.
Yeah, all the kids use it, and then they ask us for money. Now, I'm not rooting for Snapchat to fail. I'm just rooting for people to not believe in bullshit, meaning just close your eyes and buy and hold. Investing is an art form, and knowing when to get out. It's like, Kenny Rogers, Brad. You got to know when to hold them. Know when to hold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. Those are great things for you to think about as a trader, because this applies to not just sitting at the table, but at any table, whether it's the boardroom, the meeting room, all of it. It is a prudent speculator's approach. And so we attempt to never be in a situation where we are sitting in losers for a long time. In Snapchat, let me put it on the daily time frame. And Brad, on the day, we're not going to see the today, right?
You will not see the after hours movement
so
right now.
We're over here, but let me just rewind. Okay, so here we are, like 26 at open, went up to, I guess this is 29, fell all the way to 18, back to 24. These are waves, by the way, and there's money to be made in this wave, in that wave, and in this wave, and then certainly in the one that's going to be coming tomorrow. Okay?
Maybe not tomorrow, but...
Well, yeah, maybe not tomorrow. But the point being is, if you were an investor, and if you were lucky enough to get in here and stay in it, and staying it into its first earnings, knowing what could have happened, well, again, then you must have the financial wherewithal to be able to do that. And that, by the way, determines everything. The term day trading and investing and speculating, they all get intermingled. But I always come back to the very plain and simple thing that how long you hold something really should be dedicated by what it's giving you. As soon as it's something that starts giving you a headache or something bad, then it is no longer providing the value that you initially sought from it. And again, in the case of Snap, I'm not saying it was easy to predict. I mean, it could have been gapped up, although as Eric K. in the chat room in the Q&A section says, negative 2.31 versus negative 18, agreed. I mean, whether it's a 26-year-old running this kind of company. But again, that's not for us to say. Brad, let's continue and on the theme of what we had discussed before. So are there any questions from anyone, again, regarding anything that we had done or about the AI? Because one of the things that I want to do is I do want to do more questions where this is our Q&A section and you have direct access. I don't want to be selling to you.
Here from Rob. Rob's asking about our advanced windows. Probably the premium RBI, GBI windows are what he's referring to.
All right, Rob.
They're not going to be incredibly interesting right now. We can certainly talk about it and explain what they're doing.
Well, Brad, maybe I can suggest something to Rob. Scott pointed something out, and I think it's probably in the handouts. Steve Gomez, who's one of our educational directors, recently did a video where he kind of talked everybody through everything that Rob is asking. It seems like now that we have that on our YouTube channel, that's probably the best way.
Okay, but let me stand corrected then. I think so that's specific to the RBI GBI, but what his other question was really the difference between standard and premium. So that's probably a pretty good one.
Okay, fantastic question. Okay, so number one, and by the way, Nancy, we'll get to all that. So let me switch off to answer that question, I'm going to leave this channel. I'm going to go to the pre-market channel. So first of all, everyone, whether you're a premium subscriber or not subscriber, the way you can navigate trade ideas easily is through our channel bar, where we try to give you everything you need, really, without you having to configure anything. Value on the first impression. Imagine you open up Trade Ideas, you're already a subscriber, but you just started and you've had some training sessions, and maybe you've already gone to our trading room that is led by Barry Anderson, which I'll cover later. But your first page is the pre-market page, where you can see everything that is moving aggressively in the pre-market. Here you have MTBC 32%. I mean, incredible moves are happening in the stocks that we are helping you follow, okay? And again, in both directions, up and down. But all this information, being able to click on something and switch channels and use our cloud, these are all part of the regular trade ideas, including the charts. So everything you see, you can kind of create. We have these single stock windows where you can see what a company does, and critical points that we already have concluded are the more important ones for you to need to know to be able to make a quick decision, like the short float or the float in general. What's a good smart stop if you got in? How much do you give it so that you're not just completely cut up by a lot of noise? Okay, so all of this is part of the regular subscription service. So let me jump into a couple of the premium elements. So that way it can be easier to understand. So here I'm looking at NFX, New Field Exploration. I'm going to zoom into it a little bit, and I'm like saying to myself, okay, I see it went up, kind of came down into an area of support, of price support. And I'm going to be interested if it breaks above this day. I mean, it had a lot of volatility, but if it breaks above here, I'm going to create an alert for it saying, I would like to buy small. That's just a mnemonic for me. I hit save, and now I have an alert set up for myself with trade ideas that I no longer need to focus on. It's gone. It's there and behind the scenes. Now I can look at these by going and opening up a window called our price alerts window, and I have two specific windows here, the working and the triggered. So the working are the ones that I'm making that have not taken place yet. So I'm going to open that up, and here you go. You can see NFX. I would like to buy that small. I recently, last week, I zeroed everything out and started from scratch. And here you can kind of see what I'm trying to go for. So here I have an idea to short AMD at this number at 11 because I'm thinking it'll pull back at the whole number. And by the way, if it doesn't, I have an idea to buy it at 12. Or is it 11.98? So this is the thing. I can completely customize each idea conceptually with our limit alerts, which are a part of the premium service. Jeffrey, we're going to definitely talk about that for sure. We're probably going to start creating a kind of like maybe a separate one, Brad. I think we'll just add it to the rotation where we talk about brokerage plus and automation and how to utilize and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think we should probably do that one during the market hours.
Probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's part of the advanced functionality. The other thing that's really critical to distinguish is let me do one more thing. I'm going to bring up my triggered windows. So I'm going to show you what it looks like, and this is so important because this is, in my opinion, Brad, is kind of like the most functional paper trading that there is. Okay, so imagine that here I have this alert for AMD, or the one that we just did. Let me bring that back in for NFX, and I have this alert to buy it at 37.12. When it gets triggered, that alert is going to pop into here, and then the software is going to keep track of how I'm doing since my alert, because the idea is that, you know, it's kind of, Brad, going back to golf. Golf is this amazing game, but the problem is it's very difficult to practice for most people. You know, you either don't live on the par 5 of a nice golf club, or you just don't have the money or access, and so you aren't able to practice. Well, with trading, it's the same thing. We have all these plans, all these ideas for swing trades and gap trades and all this stuff, but the problem is, how do you practice them and when? The problem is, of course, you can't, and most brokerages don't have the technology to help you practice the right way, because in order to do it the right way, you have to have server technology. So we keep track of everything since our data is our data, and that's our advantage. What we do is, when you get into, let's say, a swing trade here, right? These are the ones that I got into. This is how much I've made on these trades. And here's what it looked like. So you can then go and you can investigate, and notice I'm showing you guys also that I'm working more on playing the downside, because, let me just bring this up real quick once again here. So we have Snapchat. I'm going to bring SPY and zoom in. And Steve and Jamie, they kind of talk about this. This is a very kind of like condensed range, and so is this. And we're bumping right into what was gigantic resistance after an incredible run. So again, from the pure gravity side of the equation, okay, from the perspective of understanding that stocks go in both directions, I'm going to show you a window that I created. And it's called, I'm going to close this up just so everyone can kind of see. And this one too, Brad, will be available for everyone. So the other thing I like to do is I like to kind of keep things a little bit simple. And since there's a lot of new people here, I don't want to overwhelm you with information. But here's a window called Slippery When Wet. So what I've done is I've come up with a concept where I kind of like want to see a little bit of a curl potentially, or you know, the sign of inherent supply and demand weakness. So first, Brad, before everyone goes crazy and asks, I'm going to save, share to the cloud, and then I'm going to go and paste that into the chat. Now everyone has that, and everyone who's a client, you can see it. So what I'm doing here is I'm finding stocks that have run into resistance problems. And let's remember, when resistance happens, like it happened here, look at what happened afterwards. It's like you have to have a little bit of an imagination to also understand that, look, anything can kind of happen. This area right here was resistance. It broke down, and there was consolidation here, it broke down, and then it ran back up very aggressively. All good. And I happen to, Brad, I almost think like we might have had this on the long side. I could have sworn I've seen it in the AI, possibly. Not 100% sure.
I'm not sure, but I know we were talking about it, yeah.
Yeah. But in this particular case, what I want to show you is just the counter thinking. Remember, you're not trying to predict. You're basically saying that, hey, look at this. It's kind of behaving in this way where it's not sprinting like it was yesterday or the day before. So we can say, I mean, I would even do it maybe like right here, create a price alert, and I'm going to say short, sell, I'm going to say sell below the call number. And the idea is that it just might, behavioralistically speaking, still be in this downtrend and revert back to the forces that put it there. So this is a window that looks for this kind of behavior, okay? And this behavior can be manifested in a number of different ways. So here you can see it's kind of a stall. Same thing here. Notice the stall. Now, we are in the relative positive 10-day range of this window, but you can kind of go into the weaker one where I had already had this, SUPN, and then you can look at some of the other things. Again, just the stalling right here. Do not necessarily fear shorting the same stocks that you buy. Again, do not fear it. Be more concerned about the risk management. Trade ideas will help you discern which probabilities you ought to be following. So then that goes back to the premium part of the service. So right here, our artificial intelligence during the day comes out and it gives you ideas all throughout the day, and you can kind of see what happened today. And in fact, this strategy, Carpe Day Alpha, which had produced some really cool results before today, had struggles. And that's the other part that's totally kind of hard for people to understand, is that just because you have the odds, the future is still unknown. You then just behave with the risk management. Eric, that's another good question. So Eric asked, do we have a minimum average true range you won't trade it below? And the answer is no. Well, I mean, yes, and of course, no. We don't just define it as minimum average true range, but the result of that happens through through the filtering that takes place in the symbols, like everything that you're gonna see here. Okay, like look at the relative volumes. They're usually always above average. So it's a combination of relative volume or volatility. And obviously, there's, if it's a buyout, it would be a totally different thing, which would skew one of them. But the idea is that we use multiple factors together to make sure that the candidates have the highest available probability. So Dennis, you can use your history. So Dennis asked a question if history is available for premium or if it's available for regular, and history is available for anything. So here I have a window called USA all the way. Who? Oh, it's from Defense. I'm like, Brad, who wrote these things? So here I just right-clicked and went to history and unselected real time, and then I can just put in today. And I can look at today. So in this case, in terms of Eric's question about average true range, you can search ATR, or is it range? So average true range, and you can put like all sorts of various things on there. So you can say like minimum average true range of like, let's say 25 cents, and then of course you can go to the search and look at the histogram and see like, oh, okay, so these are, out of all the candidates, this is my available universe. So the thing is that there's so many different ways that you end up being at this average true range number of 25 cents without necessarily having to put that number in there. That's really what I'm trying to say. Brad, did I make sense there?
Yeah, I mean, it's fully a personal thing. And with respect to the different ranges that we have, we're looking at, this here is looking at the average over the last 14 days, but we've got the average true range for today specifically or on a percentage basis compared to normal.
Yeah, our filters and what you can do with the alerts and the filters, this is like an artist's paintbrush. But again, you don't have to be Picasso because we have that AI for the premium subscribers that does all the painting for you. Okay, let's bring in a little bit of, let me finish up over here.
So let me just ask, Dan, I was answering some questions, but with respect to kind of tie up the premium offering, did you talk about Brokerage Plus at all?
Well, no, that's where I'm about to get into that.
All right.
About to get into it. So Brokerage Plus, okay? So I don't have my trader's workstation up right now, but Brokerage Plus is right now also available to everybody as part of your premium subscription, because Brokerage Plus allows you to do a couple of things. So I don't know why I made it so big. Brad, who am I? Okay, let me just size it like this. So I can see a symbol come across our artificial intelligence, and let's just pretend for a minute it's the first one, and like this one, HTZ, it comes across, and when it does, you can see that it will have an entry price on it. At that point, through your connection with Brokerage Plus and Interactive Brokers, which is what we connect to, once that's connected, you can right-click and trade, and you can put in all sorts of customizations for what you want to do. Short 300, buy 500, you can do dollar amounts. You can get relatively sophisticated. And then what's really beautiful is that these positions appear here, and then you can start managing it visually via P&L and through these buttons, which I've been using more and more, and especially one of my favorite ones that I've been using lately is the reverse, where it's almost like I'm teaching myself, by the way, to to improve with my own tech where I see myself get into a trade, and then when I don't like something, if the P&L is turning against me, I use more of the reverse versus just the exit. It's a kind of a, again, very good way to maneuver around the market. So this Brokerage Plus, while it's in beta, and Brad, we just released a brand new version, I believe, right? It's
well, we did. It's still internal right now, but hopefully we'll be able to get this out to everybody that's using it tomorrow or the next day.
right, but it's coming out soon. So it's version 4.0135. It really helped with a lot of the data issues with Brokerage Plus, and now there's a nice summary tab that has additional information, and we're continuing to move forward with this. And specifically, again, when we get into strategy automation, what I want to do is, like, it's not for the Q&A webinar, but we have, not only do we have people that work with us that help people with strategy automation, but also that will be a separate training element in and of itself. More and more people have been asking, so we're definitely going to be doing it. Okay, the last thing that I want to add is that Brokerage Plus is, again, free. Right now, while Trade Ideas Brokerage Plus is in beta. So it's been in beta, Brad, for how long? Brad, don't.
2 months, month and a half.
2 months, yeah. So we don't know when it'll go into version 1, but when it does, there will be a fee of $1,088, but anybody who has premium subscription gets it grandfathered to them forever. So that's another incentive to get on premium now and not have to pay $1,000 in the next couple months if you end up using Brokerage Plus, which we think more and more, well, we see more and more people using. So Brad, let's move on. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure we answered all the questions. John, where do I find Brokerage Plus? My version is going to not look exactly like yours, but new and Brokerage Plus. You just won't have any of this crazy stuff. But Brad, that's about right, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And the additional premium windows are accessed from there as well if you have a premium subscription. This is where the red bar ignored and the green bar ignored, and then the confirmed versions of it. So that's also all accessed with the premium subscription. All right, what I'm going to do, everyone, is I'm going to hand you over to Scott, and he will finish with, oh, well, let me just do one more thing, the trading room. I wanted to spend more time on it, but Barry Anderson runs one of the best trading rooms, and it's ours. It's free to any interested investor. We encourage everybody to come in there. It's a great way to get a feel for the technology and the kind of people that invest actively. So I really want to encourage everybody to do that. You can access it from our homepage, and this is the link for it as well. This is everything that I just told you about Brokerage Plus. It's available. Make sure, if you want to do that, and we recommend it, that this is the time to do it, because you're going to save $1,000. Mike, we're working on paper trading for Brokerage Plus 100%. And that's also going to be fully activated and included. That's a huge thing, and it's coming. We've started doing a podcast, myself and Jamie Hodge, and we're going to have some guests. So we encourage everybody to go to iTunes, check out our podcast. They're a less formal way, but it's a way to check out Trade Ideas and see how speculation's approached from all angles of the spectrum. So, Scott, are you ready to rock and roll?
Unmuted.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for the good presentation. Lots of questions today. Yeah, Dan already mentioned the podcast. Do subscribe to that. This Friday, we're having a special guest, Chris Reed from Ascend Trading is going to join Dan Merkin, and we had a good webinar with Chris a couple weeks ago. Very popular webinar, so we're having him back to participate with Dan. So keep an eye out for that. The code session is good this week to save you 15% off your first month or year of trade ideas, and you can also download this card and some of the other ones, including the contact information card from the handouts panel, and you go to webinar interface. Just find where it says handouts, expand it, and download that. The code session needs to be all caps, just like you see it, but that'll work to take 15% off your first month or year of trade ideas. Remember, the standard plan also includes a full hour of one-on-one training, just like the premium one does. So when you sign up for either plan after you've watched the Getting Started videos and joined the trading room a few times, you'll probably have some questions. So write those questions down and then go to the support section, click on training, and schedule your session. And you'll work with one of our educators, usually Steve Gomez, Jamie Hodge, or Andy Lindloff. And they will get you started. It's the best onboarding possible because they are experts using trade ideas for many years. Thanks everyone for attending. We'll try to get the recording up as soon as we can, but it'll be up by tonight, and you get a reminder tomorrow about where to find it. If you do have a question about the presentation, you can email us info@trade-ideas.com or contact Dan directly, Dan@. But the info@ is the best address to send questions because that gets routed through our help desk software to the appropriate team member to answer your question in the fastest time possible. So keep that in mind when looking for a way to get your questions answered. Follow Dan on Twitter at TradeIdeas1. We also have @TradeIdeas and some other handles you'll find if you follow Dan. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/TradeIdeasPro. And if you follow our page and like us, you'll see some unique content there that you can share with your friends and spread the Trade Ideas love. There's also a group. If you look for the Trade Ideas group, was started by one of our members, and I'm sure you can find it. We're going to promote that because it's been getting some really good posts and traction. So I'm sure you can find it on your own if you search. But we'll start to share that some more in days to come. I think Dan already mentioned Brokerage Plus and all the other goodies, so I think we're good to go for today. Thanks, Dan and Brad, for the presentation. Thank you all for attending, and we'll see you in tomorrow's trading studio if you want to come to that. It should be a good one, hosted by Andy Lindloff. And I think Jamie Hodge is co-pilot on that one. So thanks all.
Thank you, everyone.